You can tell if you're sleeping.
Okay, welcome everybody to another edition of Mind-Boggling Concepts in the Torah. Remember, put down any sharp objects and don't get too close to the camera. We don't want to spread any of those diseases. So tonight we have as Rav Yechiel mentioned, a blockbuster. This is probably my most favorite part of the whole Torah. Mind-boggling stuff. Everybody who knows the whole story. We get introduced to a talking donkey, right? Mind-boggling stuff. So Rav Noach, he says on this, there's a famous midrash. What's the whole point of Parsha Balak? Because it's introduced us to Bilam. Now the Talmud is a fascinating thing. The Talmud says it's in Avodah Zarah, the beginning of Avodah Zarah. It says that the hardest thing for a human being to understand is anybody ding 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 ding.
Evil.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, I like that.
Hatred. I think you.
Hatred. Right. The hardest thing for a human being to understand is hatred. We don't really understand love. Now the Talmud doesn't say that, right? But I believe that's true. That we don't understand love. It doesn't bother us. Right? But
you say we don't understand love, but it doesn't bother us that we don't understand it.
Right.
Hatred, we don't understand it, and it bothers us that we don't understand it.
Right. So you see, the only true hatred in the world, so who understood it? Bilam.
He understood hatred?
He understood hatred, that's right.
You mean why there's hatred, or he just understood the reasons behind hatred?
He understood hatred in the same way we understand love.
Wow, he was the only one?
I don't know whether the Talmud means it's an exclusive list, just him, but it seems like it's a very difficult thing to grasp. Right? And he was able to get it. Right now, why is it so? So you see, right? The only true hatred, the only real hatred, even though stop hatred and all this thing and hate speech and all this stuff, which is it is noble, but it's very, very difficult because it's a thing that has. Because you don't understand it, you're not going to be able to define it, and it morphs into the most silly things that you can't say. It's very difficult to have laws against hatred, but hate speech and things like that. Even though it's a noble effort, but eventually it's very difficult to define. So the only true hatred are the Jews. That's it, because the hatred of anybody else is not real hatred. Because if you hate a particular race or a particular people or even a particular person, it's only because you have a perceived cause. Whether that cause is legitimate or not legitimate, that's beside the point. But nevertheless, you hate this person or you hate this group of people because this is what they do. Like it might be justified for Jews to hate Palestinians at the moment because they've done some pretty wicked stuff, or it might be justified, and for sure it is, to hate Nazis. Right? Maybe you hate Germans, that might be, or Poles. There are no people who hate Polish people, right, for what they did. But nevertheless, it's for what they did. People hate Jews for nothing they did. They just hate Jews.
Without cause.
Without cause, right? That we just don't understand.
Is it similar to Sinas Chinam?
No. That's a great question. You think it was because it's Sinas Chinam, free hatred. But what Chinam over there means is not. It's not that there isn't cause. It's that you think it's free. You think you can get away with it. You think it won't affect you.
But that's exactly the point. They think it's not going to affect them, but and it does affect them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly the point. That's why it's so bad.
Right, but Jew hatred is like that exactly. They don't think it's going to affect them, but it does affect them. Take the Palestinians, take Hamas, right? Like they don't think it's going to affect them.
No, that's not true. That's the fascinating thing about this hatred. Like if you went to the Ayatollah Khomeini and you said to him, "Listen, this is the deal, right?" You go to him 2 years ago and you show him the video, or you give him a time machine and go, "You can go back and tell yourself what to do." He would still do the same thing.
You think they would still hate regardless of whatever?
Right. It is not relevant to the outcome. They don't care about the outcome.
Really?
Yeah. In the same, you see, it's the same thing as love. Right. The saddest experience I probably ever have is seeing a parent bury a child.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to the parent, I wouldn't suggest doing it, and say, "Do you regret having children now?" Right? No, because it's love, even though the outcome was terrible. So the hate is the same thing, but the inverse. Can you hear me? Do I lose you?
Yeah, no, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm just wondering if you fell off the cliff. So Bilam was one of these people that hated the Jewish people. So the Midrash says, what's the purpose of Bilam? Because the non-Jews are going to come and they're going to say, "We would have been great, but we never had any leaders like you guys had leaders. You had Moses, we didn't have anybody." So God says, "Okay, I'll give you one, Bilam."
Mm-hmm.
Right? So Rav Noach asked the question, but Bilam was a Russia. He was evil. Why don't you give him a tzaddik? So he says he was a tzaddik.
How was he a tzaddik?
What do you mean? How was he? Which problem? Which word are you having a problem with?
You mean tzaddikim have relationships with their animals? I'm sorry, but obvious question here.
I mean, it's an interesting thing, but I'm not sure it's forbidden for non-Jew.
But you just called him a tzaddik.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were not officially Jews, right? The Torah wasn't given yet. Okay, yeah. Did they do that? No.
No, I'm not saying it's a plus to do such a thing.
But right, so how is he a tzaddik? A tzaddik means you're following God's laws.
Yeah, right.
That's not following God's laws. I think it says very clearly no relationships there.
It's Jewish. He wasn't Jewish.
So he gets away with it? No, wait. What you mean is he's a tzaddik according to the Noahide laws, right?
Yes, 100%.
Ah, right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So he's a tzaddik. What made him a Rasha? So when he lives over in approximately in the area of Lebanon, Syria, up there somewhere. In the ancient world, Egypt is another universal way. They didn't have the internet or anything like that. So he doesn't know the Jews. He doesn't know the Jewish people. He doesn't know what happened in Egypt. Nothing. Right? So what happens?
Really? Right? I thought he was one of Paro's advisors, like Eov and Moshe's father-in-law, Yisro.
Right. But he doesn't know about what happens. He doesn't know about what happened. The Jewish people came out. He doesn't know the whole story.
He's still a Rasha because he knows the time that Hashem is upset, and he uses that to curse people. That's not a very tzaddik thing to do, even according to the Noahide laws.
I don't know if it doesn't make you a Rasha per se. What made him a Rasha per se is that when he doesn't know the Jews, so Balak comes and says, "Come curse the Jews." So he says, "Okay, I don't know." Right? So he goes to God, and God says to him, "Don't curse the Jews because they're blessed." At that point, that's the point he becomes a Rasha. Because at that point, he only has two choices. He can either convert and join them or be against them.
Huh.
That's what makes an anti-Semite. The average non-Jew doesn't know which way's up. Jew, what they are, Israel, nothing. It's nice, okay. You follow? The anti-Semite is the person who understands what Jews are, and it grates him terribly.
So the anti-Semites today, are they real anti-Semites?
Yes, real anti-Semites. These are really bad people.
Like all of them. I mean, like, let's say you picked someone up in, somewhere in the middle of the United States, and he doesn't like Jews. Never met one, but doesn't like them.
It's hard to be a blanket statement because there are people. I've seen people come out of these movements who turn around. I've seen them. There are people just get caught up in it and they don't know which way's up, and they just, they're frustrated. They had a tough childhood. They're just looking for something, right? So it's not the same meaningful experience. It's not the same. It hasn't got the same depth to it.
So Hamas, Iran, true anti-Semites.
Yeah, they're the bad people, right? Okay. And the problem Jews particularly, and most people in general have with them is, you just explain. You see Jews trying to do it. Just explain to them we're nice people. We're just, it's not an apartheid country. All these different things, and none of it makes any difference because they're not interested in truth whatsoever. Truth is irrelevant. So, but anyway, because when you hate somebody, the closest you get to seeing this is in divorce. You see these. I have a few students who are divorce lawyers, and they, these people. This is how they make money. It's like probably the most lucrative part of law there is, because people are willing to lose money so the other side will suffer. Right, totally stupid, exactly. But that's because that's hatred. Hatred will make you do things like that. And that's an anti-Semite, the same thing. Their personal gain is irrelevant. It's all about making the other side suffer. That's what they get a sort of pleasure from. They
don't care that they themselves suffer or the children suffer along. They're not interested.
They don't care. They don't care. In the same way, love makes you do the same thing.
Right, you don't care if your kid poops on you. I'm sorry to use that example.
You don't care, you don't have sleep, you don't care, right? All these things, right? Now, for a single person doesn't have kids, doesn't understand it. Why would you put yourself through such a thing? So anyway, so Balak comes to Balaam and says, "Come curse the Jewish people," and eventually he goes, and God sends this. God opens the mouth of the So on the way there, God sends a malach, an angel, who's going to come kill Bilam, and the donkey sees the angel. Bilam doesn't see it, and the donkey 3 times tried to avoid the malach, the angel, and 3 times that Bilam hits the donkey. Mm-hmm. So finally, God opens the mouth of the donkey. Now, this, the rabbis say, the Midrash explains, is one of the all-time great miracles of existence. It's on par with the splitting of the Red Sea. Mm-hmm. And we've seen too many CGI movies. Like, okay, what's the big deal, right? But if you were living, if you saw a real miracle, you would feel the experience. It would mean something. It would be very meaningful. You'd feel the hand of God in the same way that anybody who's sensitive to the Jewish people, when 400 ballistic missiles are fired at the land of Israel and with minimal damage, when you see the planes, the idea flying over Tehran without incident, nothing. You go, obviously it's the hand of God. It has a tremendous meaning. You can have CGI do the same thing and it just doesn't mean anything. But you feel the hand of God in these actions, in these experiences, in these events. So the donkey talking to Bilam is an incredible event. on par again with the splitting of the Red Sea, right? So what does the donkey say? I mean, here God creates this whole new bria, this whole new creation, right? Now the Rambam says famously that the only reason for a miracle is because there's no other way of doing it. In other words, the Jewish people had to get to the other side, so the Almighty split the Red Sea. If he had time to build a bridge, he would have built a bridge, right? So there's no other way of doing it. So what did the donkey say that was so crucial that God opened his mouth and made this incredible miracle? What
He
did
needed tochacha.
what did the donkey say?
He said, "What have you done? What have I done to you that you struck me these 3 times?"
Right. Then let me ask you something. Isn't that one of the most stupid questions you ever heard of?
Well, it's the same question, not similar, but it's in line with where are you, and God knows exactly where you are.
That's true. That's a very good point, and there is a certain similarity there. But that was God. This is a donkey. It was there. God knows what's going on. Here, the donkey doesn't know. It's only able to speak. So here it says.
What do you mean the donkey doesn't know? How can the donkey say these words if it doesn't know what it's saying?
It knows what it's saying, but it's not necessarily deeper than what you'd expect from a donkey.
Okay. So the donkey's saying, why did you hit me three times?
Right. What's the necessity of a donkey? See, if you go a little further, you see what happens, right? Bilam, what does Bilam say?
Because you mocked me. If only there were a sword in my hand, I would now have killed you. He sounds like a madman.
Why?
Because he's totally enraged by a donkey, for heaven's sake. And he doesn't seem to realize that his donkey is talking to him and that he's responding to it.
That's a very good point. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But imagine for a minute, you're driving along the New Jersey highway and your car like swerves off the road 3 times in a row.
I'd be like, I'm getting off of this thing.
but nevertheless, you can well understand anybody being particularly angry at the car. That's why
I know, but wouldn't you think it's unusual and strange if your car started suddenly behaving so oddly?
Right.
I mean, how stupid do you have to be like, something's off here? I mean, 3 times? First time, I get it. Second time?
That's what the donkey says. The donkey says, right, have I ever done this to you before?
Right. And he says, no.
No. Right? Is that an amazing insight?
Why isn't it an amazing insight? If he's such a tzaddik and he deserves to be a prophet, shouldn't he be a little bit more nuanced and aware?
That's a very good point. But it's at that point that when he says no, right? Bilam, verse 31, sees the angel.
Mm-hmm.
So that no was crucial.
Right.
When Bilam says no, that's a crucial point. So much so that now Bilam gets to see what the donkey saw. What does he see? An angel standing there with a sword in his hand.
And the angel says the same thing. Why did you strike your donkey 3 times?
Right. Now, if I were there, I mean, I'm not as smart as Bilam, I don't think. But if I was there, I would have said to the angel, what are you, deaf? Everyone's taking stupid pills today? I just answered that question. Right? Do I have to repeat myself when you're crying?
Considering that he was in a rage, that's what you would expect. But it seems like it's like he changed all of a sudden, and now he knows what he's dealing with.
Right. Well, because he's starting to see an angel with a sword, and that's no small thing. That's a serious deal. So now he's oh my goodness, I better tone this down a little bit. Right, follow? And
Right.
the angel says the same thing. Why did you hit your donkey 3 times?
He's not much of a prophet, is he? Because if he was a real prophet, wouldn't he believe that everything that happened to him was coming from God?
That's true. He should be saying that, like 100%. But nevertheless, what is the angel repeating the question for?
I guess it's because he wants him to admit that he made a mistake.
What was the mistake?
That he did not listen to God.
He did listen to God. God told him he could go.
So when he says, I have sinned, what does he mean? He means he sinned with the donkey, or he sinned against God? What does he mean when he says, I have sinned, for I did not know that you were standing opposite me on the road?
Right, that was the sin.
That he didn't see the angel?
I didn't say. I assumed the donkey was just crazy or mad or whatever it happened to be.
Again, what kind of a prophet is this that he's not able to easily see angels? I mean, Abraham saw them. Yitzchak and Yaakov saw them. I mean, he's a prophet. For sure, Moshe saw them.
Right, but just because you don't see them, there are many prophets that didn't see that. There are angels all over the place. Last time I saw one was a long time ago. It was in the womb.
But again, like, he doesn't connect the two. He doesn't connect the two, that like his donkey never does this, and all of a sudden it's behaving in this way when I'm doing something that really God does not approve of.
He doesn't connect it. So let's go back. When the donkey says to Balaam, why did you hit me 3 times? It was a tremendous miracle. Right? Yet the donkey says the most stupid of things. So when the donkey when he says to the donkey, when the donkey says to Balaam, why did you hit me these 3 times? Right? Balaam says, because you went off track 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
The same question the angel asks. Therefore, he didn't give the right answer. The angel's asking again because you didn't answer it properly the first time. So what should Balaam have said the first time? When the donkey says, why'd you hit me these 3 times? What should Balaam have said?
Balaam should have said, I made a mistake then.
No, he doesn't know he made a mistake.
He should have asked the donkey why the donkey didn't move.
Why the donkey didn't move what?
Why, like, the reason he struck him is because he wanted him to go, or she wanted her to go. I'm sorry, this is too much for me. Balaam wanted his donkey to move forward, and she was not.
Right.
So you should have said, that's the reain why I did. But instead, he says, it's because you mocked me.
Fine, but you see, imagine again, you're going down the New Jersey Turnpike, and the car swerves off the road 3 times. You get out of the car, and you beat the car. Okay, it's not necessarily the most glamorous or glorious or noble thing to do, but that's what people do. They hit the car. The hood of the car pops up, and it says, "Why you hit me?" So what would you say?
You're acting quite strangely. I would have said, because you're acting quite strangely, and I'm frustrated that you're not working properly.
Right, you might say that, but it's not what you should say. What should you say?
What should I say? What I would like to know is, why are you swerving off?
No.
Okay. I guess this will never happen to me. Thank God.
You got the answer before, actually.
Did I? I don't remember.
You'd say, where did you learn to talk?
Yes, I did point out that it's crazy that he's talking to his donkey, and I'm not realizing that he's talking to his donkey.
Right, your father, that's what you would say.
So why doesn't he say that?
That's the question. So let me give you the scenario in which, and now you understand why the necessity for the miracle, because the miracle isn't that the donkey says this profound thing. He doesn't quote Shakespeare.
Is that Balaam talks to it back?
That's the whole point. So you see, when would you say such a thing? So I want you to picture, God forbid, somebody comes home and their house is aflame.
Uh-huh.
and they run in to save their baby on the third floor. They
Uh-huh.
go, it's burning and floorboards are falling down, and he nearly crashes, and he manages to get up there, smoke everywhere, and he grabs the kid, and he's coming down the stairs, and he falls, and the things fall on him, and his clothes are catching fire, and he runs out the house, right, in panic and total craziness, right, hysteria, right, and as he runs out the house, the dog says, "Is everything okay? Did you get the kid?" What would you say?
I'd be like, you can talk?
No, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't say that.
No, you'd say, yes, he's fine. Now, a couple of hours later, you go, wait a minute. Did I dream? Did the dog speak to me? You follow? A human being is capable of being so singularly focused on something that they don't see anything else going on.
Oh,
Sometimes
so he
you
was
could do.
singularly focused on going forward and cursing the Jews that he doesn't even realize he's like in the future already.
That's right.
The only
Doesn't
reason he comes out of the future and what he's going to be doing is because God makes this donkey, go veer off and then talk to him.
No, the donkey doesn't get anywhere. It's only when he sees the malach.
Right, but I'm saying it's the first process. Otherwise, why wouldn't Hashem send the malach right away for him to see?
So the donkey doesn't get him to stop. The donkey
No, but it gets him to get out momentarily from the future of, okay, I'm going to curse, I'm going to curse.
It doesn't. No. It's only when the malach he sees the malach, then, oh my goodness. Then he gets he calms down.
Well, he calms down because he realizes that he's in front of a greater power.
That's right.
The fact that he has to deal with the frustration of his donkey, doesn't that like dampen his expectations of what he's going to be doing in the future? Because like all the excitement of going in to curse the Jews gets a little dampened by the fact that his donkey is not doing as he expects.
No,
really?
It should. That's the second question that the donkey asks. The donkey first says, "Why'd you hit me?" Right, which is a crazy question. To which Bilam should have said, "Who told you to talk?" He doesn't, because he's so caught up with cursing the Jews that he can't see anything. He's in a rage. It's like that's what anti-Semites are like. They're so caught up, right, with coming to kill the Jews, they don't see anything. You're not talking to anything. You follow?
That's why they don't know what it even means. The river, the sea, they have no idea what the river means.
They have no idea, right? They're completely blind, right? But you don't realize it. You think you're talking to a reasonable person. You're not. That's why as soon as October 7th happened, out of the woodwork, people came from all over. Wow, finally, we're getting our own back of the Jews, right? It broke. It's completely irrational. So that's the set. So then we get to the second question. So the donkey says like this: did I ever do anything like this before? Now that's an irrelevant question.
Does he mean like veering off, or does he mean speaking?
No, veering off.
Okay.
Did I ever do anything like this before? That's an irrelevant question. If you have a car and for 3 times in a row it veers off, at some point you get rid of the car.
Yeah.
You follow?
Yeah.
So what does the donkey mean? Have I ever done? Like, what difference does that make?
What difference does it make if he doesn't really care about the donkey?
Because it's his answer. He says, "If I had a sword, I'd kill you." And at that point, he sees the malach. What is the malach holding?
A sword. Ooh.
So what's the malach telling him?
That I can kill you too, and I should.
Who's the donkey?
In this case, it's Bilam.
Bilam.
Because you're not listening either, Bilam.
You're the donkey, right?
Ooh.
And the donkey went off 3 times. And 3 times you're dead. But Bilam says after 3 times you deserve to die.
Mm-hmm.
So God says to Bilam, don't try and curse the Jews. So how many times did he try?
How many times has he tried?
Well, after this, it's 3 times.
You mean moving forward, he tries to curse 3 times?
Yeah,
Does he die immediately after that?
soon after that.
Oh, what a stupid man.
You understand? He's getting a message from his own mouth. Even though you've been a loyal, that's what the donkey says, even though I've been a loyal and faithful donkey, I've been a loyal and faithful servant of God all my life. Yes, but if you go off 3 times, you deserve to die.
Wow, I didn't know that. This is very interesting. Thank you for bringing clarity. That's amazing.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So he tries 3 times to curse the Jews. Now, what's fascinating is he tried 3. There are 3 ways he does it. Now, it's the inverse of a bracha. A bracha, for a bracha to be meaningful, there has to be something upon which it rests. You can't give a bracha to somebody who has no legs. You should run a marathon, right? You can't give a bracha to somebody who can't sing to save their life. It should be an opera singer. But the classic example of a bracha is the fish. The fish got a bracha. How does that bracha express itself? That whereas most animals have 2, 3, 4 at a time, a fish has hundreds, if not thousands.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes what is there and makes it greater. A curse is the opposite. It takes what's negative and makes it worse. So he goes 3 times to see different aspects of the Jewish people to find something that is bad. At one point, he starts out by seeing the whole people, because sometimes you can look at it's like going to a particular school. If you're going to check out a school, you're going to check out a car, or you're going to check out a restaurant, right? They show you that they put their best foot forward. They show you the best students, the best food, the best ambiance, everything. They don't show you all the nitty gritty. If you see the whole picture, it's a different picture. Very few things are good in their whole. So he sees the whole Jewish people, and there's nothing there to curse, right? So he says, okay, so maybe the whole, as a whole, in other words, you can have a thing where the whole is wonderful. It's like a car, right? A car can be, as a whole, be a phenomenal machine. But there could be little bits about it that don't work very well, that you would only know if you drive it for a long time. Right? So he says, okay, I can't find anything in the whole, so then let me take to a little bit of the edge, a small subgroup, maybe a small part of the Jewish people. Maybe there's a part of them that's bad, and he goes there and he can't find anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then Balak says to him, well, maybe this is a particular time in history where they're just doing great. Let's look at the future. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be something in their future. Not everybody is wonderful all the time. Outside of your spouse. Right? So maybe in the future, there's something that we could find. And they look in the future and they can't find anything.
Wow, that's impressive.
Now, and that's just crazy. Because this Parsha has just been followed the worst Parshas in the whole Torah.
Yeah.
Right? We've had the Meragalim, we've had the complaints, right? We've had hitting the rock.
Korah.
What?
Korah.
We've had Korah. We've had everything. There's everything. The Egel Azav, the golden calf. I mean, what do you mean you can't find anything? In fact, he quotes God, and he says, if you look at chapter 23, verse 21, Lo kebit aven b'Yaakov. God doesn't see anything bad in Yaakov. What, is he blind? He just turns a blind eye?
I feel like you taught this to us before, but I can't remember.
It's like a mother whose son is a murderer.
No, it's
And
not like that. It's a
he
good
was a
try.
good boy. He's a good
No,
boy.
no,
No, no, no.
was,
It's like the
no.
mother whose son is a tzaddik. And okay, so one time he made a little mistake, but he's still a tzaddik.
No, it's not like
No,
that
it's not
either.
like that either.
No, because in both of those cases, the truth is there is something wrong.
And both, well, I understand the murderer, but
He's a murderer, or he's a tzaddik and he did something wrong. But that's not what's going on here. We can't find any individual small little bit, incy bincy wrong thing. Lo habit aven b'Yaakov. There's nothing bad in the Jewish people. How can you say such a thing? After they said this, the Torah put this after all these terrible parshas.
can I ask a silly question before we answer your question?
No such thing. There's only silly answers.
Is this the right spelling of it? I thought awun is the, or awun, I don't know how to pronounce it. Isn't awun with an ayin that's considered iniquity?
With an iron? What do you mean?
Yeah, isn't there ayin vav nun sofit? Isn't that what iniquity is?
Avon.
Avon. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm pronouncing it the Azerbaijani way.
Right. Yes. That's
I haven't seen this before. Aleph vav nun sofit.
That's a good question. There's an oven which is with an aleph as well, but I'm not a grammarian. I'm sorry, that's not.
Okay, we'll let it go.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at it later.
Sorry, it's a good question. I don't have a good answer for you.
So is the answer that it's looking at the very soul of a Jew and the very essence of the nation, and that they're completely tahor?
No.
Okay.
So you
ask
see,
the question again, please.
what does it mean that God doesn't see any bad wrongdoing in Yaakov? What do you mean?
That there is no wrongdoing.
What does the word hibit mean? Hibit.
Look,
That means look, to see?
To see, yeah.
To not see.
That there is nothing they do wrong. It's just that they've been overcome by a Yetzer Hara.
No.
Oh, you can't say that they're doing anything wrong if they don't know any better. It's only after they know better that you could say that they've done something wrong.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Are we getting closer? We're getting warmer?
You get a little warmer, yeah. There's a great Gemara in the Avodah Zarah, the beginning of Avodah Zarah, and there God finally makes reckoning with the non-Jewish world. And the non-Jewish world, in defense, they say, who says the Jewish people kept the Torah? So God says, I'll testify. And God says, and the non-Jews say, you can't testify because you're biased. Because it's like the Jewish people, like your children, the father can't testify against or for his children. Mm-hmm. So he says, well, the sun and the moon. They said the sun and the moon, they're biased because if the Jewish people don't keep the Torah, so then the world will be destroyed. And so they're going to say, yeah, of course they keep the Torah. So God says, okay, so you're going to testify that the Jewish people kept the Torah. So why don't the non-Jews come and say, what do you mean we're going to testify that the Jewish people kept the Torah? We're going to testify that the Jews did not keep the Torah. We know lots of people that did not keep the Torah. In fact, we had just a few parshas of them, let alone the whole history that's written down in Tanakh, let alone our own personal experience. We know lots of Jews that don't keep the Torah.
That's not how they're going to testify. Aren't they going to testify with a sukkah by doing?
No, then we say, well, they give us a chance, right? That's a different point.
So I really feel like you taught us this already, but I can't remember what it was.
Okay. So you see, there's no such thing as not keeping the Torah. It's just not possible.
Oh, because it gets passed down. The whole concept and the whole feeling of it gets passed down, and you don't even realize it. It becomes part of who you are, even though you don't understand the specific details.
That's definitely true. That's definitely true. But every Jew, you take any particular mitzvah, Shabbos, any mezuzah, any mitzvah you want, you never get to a point where you're going to be able to say, I can't do this mitzvah any better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So everything you do is only whatever mitzvah you're doing is because this is as good as you can imagine. You can only fulfill a mitzvah to the degree you feel this is what your responsibility is. Parenting is a good example. You can always do more for your children. You never get to the end. So whatever it is you settle on is because this is the best I feel I can do. I can't. You can't do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's how a Jew eats, breathes, sleeps, wakes up, and walks around with. Is in every single Jew. I'll tell you a very interesting story. This happened very, very early in my career in Kirov. So this is in the 1980s, I think, early 1980s. So Aisha Torah had this program with the kibbutzim around Yerushalayim. And we'd go out there because the kibbutzim, they would bring in these Americans, mostly Americans, who would come pick oranges. And the kibbutzim felt kind of responsible to do something, entertain them, do something. And so Aisha Torah offered to come in and teach them a class once a week. So we'd go in there. And the kids there, they wanted someone to talk to. It was interesting, learn a little Torah, whatever, right? If I was
Mm-hmm.
part of this program, so I went there a few times, not many, a few times, but anyway. So one time I'm sitting there, and it was very green. I didn't know what to teach, nothing. And so I decided to take a really terrible subject. I said the difference between Jews and non-Jews. I don't know what made me think of this, but again, as I apologize, I was early in my career and didn't understand subtlety or anything like that. So I'm teaching this class, and the Jews are giving me such a hard time. It was like 10 people, 8 of them were Jewish and 2 were not. Because there was an open program, anybody could go from anywhere in the world. So I said, the Jews, so many Nobel Prize winners, they went to all these different things. And for each one, the Jews said, that's not true. It's only because we're persecuted. And I wasn't getting anywhere. So I was totally frustrated. So I turned to the non-Jews, the 2 non-Jews, and said, can you help me out here? I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Do you think there's a difference between Jews and non-Jews? And they said, Rabbi, they thought I was a rabbi. They said, Rabbi, you don't know what these people are talking about. We've never met people like Jews. And the Jews, their mouths dropped. Because when the non-Jew says, see, Jews want to think that they're as not Jewish as the not Jews. So they go out their way to pretend that they're not Jew. Whatever the non-Jew does, they do it 10 times more, right? This is the Jewish thing, and they don't realize how overtly Jewish it makes them look. But that's our problem, right? So we don't realize it. I've talked about this many times that the language, the Rambam says, the language is an agreement amongst people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a word, it's because you think about it, you talk about it, so you have to have a word for it, like computer, right? So there's no word in English for a non-group except Gentile.
Mm-hmm.
We've done this, I think, right? There's no word in English for a non-group. There's 1 billion Chinese in the world. 1/8 of the world's population is Chinese, but there's no word for somebody who's Chinese or not Chinese. Right, except not Chinese. They don't have a word for it, like non-English speaking. There's no such word. You have foreigner, which is a generic word, right? Except Jew and Gentile. The only word there is for somebody who's not a non-group is a Gentile.
I think they use that more than we do.
That's exactly the point.
Yeah.
Right? that they came up with this word. It tells you how much they think in terms of you're either a Jew or you're a Gentile. The Jews think there's Jews, there's Chinese, there's Polish, there's Greeks, there's Catholics, there's Muslims, right? All different groups. But that's not how the world sees it. There's only two groups, Jews and Gentile. Right? Fascinating. So these two guys, they said, we never met people like that. So they said, we've done these programs. They do them all over the world. Like in France, you can go pick grapes. In Italy, you can go whatever they do in Italy. In Spain, they pick oranges. Right? Some of these farms all around the world, they're looking for volunteers or cheap labor. So, and there's kids who want to go travel the world, and it's it's a cheap way of staying somewhere and seeing the local culture, right? So they said we've done this a few summers, and it all works the same way. You go out, you pick oranges, you come home, you talk about movies, you have a few beers, you go to sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
These people are not like that. These people, we go out, we pick fruits, we come back. We have a few beers, we talk about movies, and then we're up all night long talking about the meaning of life. We never met people like this. And the Jews, the mouths drop.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You understand? A Jew is trying to do the right thing, even when he's doing the wrong thing. Is they trying to understand? I give you a classic example, right? A gay show. I'm not going to get into gay, whether the whole thing or anything, right? You follow? But the Catholics have had gay Catholics for 2,000 years. There's no such thing as a gay church. No such thing. Right? A Jew's going to have a gay show. You're going to have a gay show. Why? Why do you have to have a gay show? Because I want the rabbi to stand up and say, right, it's the right thing to do. It's a mitzvah. It's acceptable in the Torah. You're a good person, etc., etc., etc. Right? If he's going to do it, it's going to be with a hechsher on it. It's going to be true. It's going to be just. It's going to be right. Right? Everything he does, a Jew does, has to be because it's the right thing to do. There is no such thing as a Jew's doing the wrong thing. A Nazi, so to speak, or an anti-Semite. That's why Jews can't understand anti-Semites. Don't you want to do the right thing? Don't you want to live in truth? No, I don't want to live in truth. Is that mind-boggling? There's no such thing as a Jew. So at the end of days, they can't come up with anybody who didn't keep the Torah.
Because everyone wanted to try and do it.
Everybody's trying in whatever way they can. If you were born into the Vilna Gaon's family, right, if your father was the Vilna Gaon, you're going to be living a certain lifestyle. You're going to be trying to do whatever it is that you have to do. If you were born, a Jewish kid born into a secular family in the East End of London, that never saw Shabbos or anything, you're going to be doing the best you can with whatever you had.
Right.
You understand? That's what it is. These people, the Jews, they changed the world. So therefore, what? Right? The greatest percentage of people that have Nobel Prizes for science are Jews, right? Because wherever they are, wherever back then, they believe that education and knowledge, they believe that God is just, that God is right, and if you just investigate the world, you'll come to the truth. You'll come to a meaningful life, and it will be better for humanity, and everyone will be. And if you better humanity, why are they going to education? Why are they going to science? Because they believe if you help people, you'll be better off.
Right.
There's no such thing as a Jew that isn't following the Torah. No such thing. God doesn't see any wrongdoing in Yaakov. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with Jews. If God does, is it good enough? If we're good enough for God, good enough for me.
Interesting.
Okay.
Very interesting. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very